Good morning. So let's start the stream here. All right. Today we are talking about Gemini Code Assist. I see we have already people joining the chat. Morning, Lukas. Morning, BK Comedy, and Guru is also here. Great to see you again. All right. Before we start here in Visual Studio Code, let's first go to the documentation, and I will explain you what Gemini Code Assist is and how you can actually use it. All right. So this is the documentation. So Gemini Code Assist is like the GitHub Copilot. You're getting your AI-assisted programming buddy, however you want to call this, and it supports you writing code, finding bugs, writing documentations, and transforming your code itself. And you also get this nice IntelliJ code suggestions while you are typing. Google has built the same thing, so they are using also code, also public available code, and you get specifically to this use case trained machine learning model, much like Copilot. And today we set this up, we give this a try, we log into the Gemini Code Assist and see how we can use it, what kind of things it can do, how good it is, and hopefully by the end of the day you can set it up yourself. And one thing I want to mention, it's still free to use, so you can use the Gemini Code Assist until November 8. You can see the documentation for free, at least for one person per billing account. So if you want to give this a try, it's still for free. You don't need to pay almost until the end of the year, which is great. And with that, let's get started. We go here in setup. We're already in the setup Gemini Code Assist documentation. But first, let us go to the documentation where we can see what is actually supported here. And if we scroll down, you see we have features here. So this is called develop and deploy. So you can generate and debug code. You can generate unit tests. You can answer questions about your code, or you can ask the model to practice, to optimize it and change the code, and also looking for bugs. We will see that in a second, how you can use the chat functionality for that. There's also code transformations. I will show that later. This is currently only available in Cloud Workflows. And it's quite nice. You can imagine like having a large code base and you want to transform it from Python to Ruby, or you want to add comments to a large code file. This is what code transformations can be used for. So it can really do changes on a larger scale, on a large amount of code, and not only getting some pieces of code, and you don't need to copy paste anything. You just describe in a promptive way what you want to do with your code, and will change the complete code for you. A quite nice feature. I hope we will see this feature also soon in Visual Studio, but today it's not available there. All right, let's get started. We head over to Visual Studio, and on the right side you see we have the extensions. You can open them up, and here you can search for Gemini Code Assist. I already have it installed because I was using it already before. You can install it, just takes you a few seconds, and then we are ready to get started. After you install it, you see those Gemini icons here on the, you cannot see it on my screen. Let me see. Yeah, it's fine. I can open it. So on the right side, you get the Gemini icon, and here you can select, you need to select a project. That's the first thing you need to do. A project means you actually need to have a GCP project for that. So Gemini Code Assist only works if you are having a GCP account. That's a requirement. It's meant for companies and less for those private developers, right? OpenAI, the GitHub Copilot, basically everyone can use it. Here, also everyone can use it, but you need a Google account for that, a Google Cloud account. So let me blur this for a second, because I need to select my project here. All right. Now I've selected my project. If you don't have a project, you first need to set up a project, and you need to create a billing account, and at some point you need to put a credit card there as well. That's what I meant. It's for businesses, right? I've selected my project, and usually you also need to enable the APIs. So let us go back to the documentation for a second. And if we scroll down, you see we have this we have the Google Cloud Console, where you can where you need to actually enable the Gemini, or previously it was called the AI Companion API. So it's already enabled here. Now it's called Gemini for Google Cloud. You need to enable this API to be able to communicate with the API, right? From within your Visual Studio Code. You also need to set up roles. I'm an owner, an admin here, but if you set this up for your company or for specific users in your company, there's this Cloud AI companion user role. You need to assign this specific role to the users who should be allowed to use the Gemini Code Assist. And from there, it's already ready to be used. We're using Visual Studio Code today, but it's available also for the IntelliJ IDE, PyCharm, WebStorm, and Golang. And it's also natively integrated into the Google Cloud Console, as well as the Cloud Workstations, that I already mentioned. Cloud Workstations, it's basically a development environment in the cloud, in the Google Cloud. We'll see that later. All right, let us go back to the Visual Studio Code. And here, as I said, you have on the right side, you have this Code Assist. There are multiple ways on how we can interact with Gemini Code Assist in Visual Studio. This one is the first one, is the most prominent one because you have this nice chat box. And this is really where you have your programming AI buddy, where you can ask questions. You can find bugs in your code. So let us start with something very simple. So let us ask the model, how can I use Gemini That's a simple question. See how this is going. So you can ask general knowledge questions. It's not only generating code, it also has knowledge, so you can talk with the model itself. And you see we are getting now a response. Model tells us we need to install something, we need to do authentication, and then we are getting some sample code. Not going to test this now, if this is working or not, but you always have this feedback icons in the bottom where you have a thumbs up, thumbs down, and you can rate the feedback here. Right, you can clear the session history on the top right. Sometimes it's nice if you want to continue the conversation. If there is a bug in the code, you can tell the model, all right, there's a bug, I found a bug. Can you check the code again? Here's what I got. And then it will try to optimize the code for you. But sometimes it can be useful to clear the session again because you don't want to keep the chat context. And for that, you have this reset chat button at the top right. All right, let us ask the model to create some code. So write Python code to add two numbers. All right, let's do this. Very easy examples, but we're getting more complex during the live stream now. So we're getting a Python function where we can actually do the sum of two numbers. And here you see we have this sections where we can do something with the code we get. So we can copy this to the clipboard if you just want to copy paste it somewhere in your code. We can insert this in a new file, and we can also diff this with an open file if you would like to, and we can open it in a file. So we don't have any current file open on the left side. So let's go with open in a new file. And now you can see I have a new file open. I could now store this or save this as an example here. I have a GitHub repo. Let's call this add.py. All right. Code will probably work. I don't see any issues here. Looks good. Could also run this, but I think it's fine. All right. Got also explanations for the code, which is quite cool. So you can see what is actually happening. Not only getting code, you're getting the explanations for it. It's always good to understand code. Now we could tell the model, all right, one thing. Let us clear the chat. I want to show you a very nice feature. So we set the chat. So the model doesn't know anything what we have talked before. But let us tell the model, all right, add unit tests to the code. We are not mentioning what we are talking about, right? We just tell the model or Gemini Code Assist add unit tests to the code. And you see we are getting now the unit tests here at the bottom. And it's referring to the code we had before. This is not taken from the chat history. This is actually taken from the open file which we have here. If you scroll to the bottom, you see we have this context source. This is automatically taken from your open windows. So if you have open windows here, all the open windows will be taken as a context for your prompt which you're sending. So the model understands what is open, and you don't need to copy paste the code from the left to the right. You don't need to mention, all right, please use the add.py. It will understand the context because all the files will be submitted to the model itself. This is done, or this is possible because of the large context size window on the Google side. So the Gemini 1.5 Pro supports now up to 2 million tokens. I think it's not what's currently used here. I think they are using the Flash version still, but still you have a pretty large context size where you can, or where the model can use all the context sources as context for your prompt. So we have now the tests. You see it returned the full code, so we could basically just take this and do a diff with the open file. And now you see it understood, all right, this code is already there. This one is new, and we see this nicely provided diff, standard feature of Visual Studio Code, but it's nice to see that Gemini integrates this as well. And now we could accept the changes. This looks good. We're also getting some comments here. And I think that explains really well how this is working, at least from the code assist chat side. You can also see, that's what I mentioned, you have multiple options on how you can interact with Gemini Code Assist. We also have this section here at the top. You see this? This is called Smart Actions. Smart Actions are really useful if you want to do directly something within your already open code. So we can open this, and you see we're getting 3 different predefined options. The first one is generate code. Second one is explain this. Explain this means explain this file, and generate unit tests. So let us remove the unit tests again and go to this Smart Actions, and let's call generate unit tests. You see, it will basically do the same, but it is a pre-configured prompt made by Google, or made by the development team of Google. And now you see, here's the prompt. Not sure if there's more in the behind. Maybe not, I don't know. But we are getting now the same which we had before, so we're getting unit tests, but you get it out of the box with those Smart Actions. Would be actually pretty cool if we could extend those Smart Actions. It's probably possible. Maybe we have to dig into this, so we can do the diff again and accept the unit tests. What we can also do, we can explain code. So let me clear the chat again. Let us remove the unit tests and use the explain this feature. This is useful if you working on a code base which you're not familiar with, or you stumble into a framework and you don't understand what this framework is doing, or some framework code. You can use explain this to let the model explain what the code is actually doing. So you see we're getting now a description. Again, this is not taken from the chat history. This is taken from the context itself here. And the model analyzes the code. So it describes what the code actually did here. And you see we have the context source again. This could be also multiple files. Let us actually add another Python file here. Call this second.py. All right, let's keep it empty. Let's see if this is working with an empty context. I think we need to add some code here. So let's just add a print here. Let's see what it's doing if I explain the code. Let's see what's happening. So we get understanding on the default behavior. You see it's now using 2 context sources. So add and the second. So it always takes the open files here. It will not take the open files it will not take the files from your file system. It will take the files which are open here in the context. There is support. I have seen a preview feature. It's in the Google documentation, but I couldn't find it. There is support for full code base awareness, where you basically can use your full code base as a context. But I haven't found the possibility to use this yet. It's listed as preview. Maybe it's a private preview. Need to look this up. But it seems to be there is something on the roadmap to have this available on your full code base, which would be really nice. And I guess that's where they're going to use the 2 million token context size window to actually build this stuff. So we had this smart actions on the top. There's also inline code suggestions. So let us go back to this ad and let us remove this one and let us write some. And you see we're getting this inline code suggestions. So this is also coming from the Gemini Code Assist. We have this already natively integrated, those code completions in Visual Studio Code. So it's doing that already. If you have a framework and you import the framework, it understands what kind of features there are available. But this is not suggesting on existing frameworks. This is suggesting on your code based on the Gemini response. In this case, there's only one suggestion because it's a very clear use case what we want to do. But if the model finds out there are different possibilities, we can tap through the suggestions. So there could be multiple suggestions. You can tap through them and then you select the one which is the most suitable for your use case. In this case, it's very easy. So we do the add numbers, which is the function name, and have num1 and num2. So you're getting those code suggestions inside of the development environment as well. All right, let's go to the next one. We had the code actions. Oh, sorry, we had the smart actions. We had the inline code suggestions, or IntelliJ, we want to call this. And there are also code actions. Code actions are also quite nice. So we could simply just select this one here. And you see this blue bulb. And here we can do something only for the specific code we selected. So we could tell the model to explain this, and it will only take the selected code for explanation, nothing else. You see, we have only add numbers explained. The rest of the code is ignored. So those are the code actions. So remember, we have smart actions at the top here. Those are the smart actions. And if you select code, we are getting the code actions. And on the right side, unfortunately it's cut off here on my screen, on the right side you have the code assist. So where you have the file system, where you have your extension icons on the right side, or on the left side, depending how you configure this. There's this Gemini Code Assist icon where you can open up the chat as well. So those are the 3 different places where we have actual buttons on the right side, on the top, and in your code. And we also get the inline code suggestions as well. All right, I want again to test how good the model actually is. So let us ask something here. How can I create text embeddings with Google Cloud? Oh, seems to be my keyboard is not working. 1 second. I think I have some Bluetooth issues. 1 second. So how can I create text embeddings with Google Cloud? We run this. So see, my mouse is also not working. I need to check my mouse. 1 second. I'm back in a few seconds. 1 second. All right, working again. So let's go back to the answer we got here from the model to see how the general knowledge actually is. So we want to create text embeddings with Google Cloud. Let's see, we're getting a Python example, and it's using here a universal sentence encoder, not what I was looking for. I was expecting using the text gecko model, but let's tell the model, okay, I wanted to use the text gecko model. So let's do this. As always, there are multiple solutions, right? And if you're writing those prompts, you need to be as specific as possible. So we're now getting something else. I'm not quite happy with this results actually, because it's not using what I was looking for. I actually wanted to use the gecko models. But okay. All right, let's take another one. Was not as good as expected, but different prompts have different results, and we could be more specific. Let's ask another one. How can I deploy LLM to Google Cloud? The model size is around, let's say, 80 gigabyte. Now, I want to have the model to understand, all right, it's a very large model. There are not a lot of options how you can actually deploy a large language model on Google Cloud. Basically just two, at least if it's around this size of model, if it's this model size. So let's see what the model comes up with, the Gemini Code Assist. So comprehensive approach. Yeah, keep in mind the size and performance. All right, so it's good. So we can deploy with Vertex AI with custom containers or also pre-built models. So it's also mentioning there are pre-built models. I like that. We don't need to use a custom model necessarily. We could also use the pre-built models. But if we want to use, we can use model surfing in custom container. And it also tells us how we could prepare our LLM. So we make sure it's one of the formats. All right. It's mentioning quantization. I like that because large models should be quantized to make them more efficient, and explore techniques like pruning or knowledge distillation. All right. And then it tells us how we can we need to create a Vertex AI endpoint, handle a large model size. I would probably put it into the container itself, but if we use one of the pre-built frameworks or images, we could also store it on cloud storage. That's right. And we need GPUs. Yeah. Let us ask the model if it's just to see what the model is responding. Those are basically the two options you have if you deploy a large language model. You either use Kubernetes or you use Vertex AI endpoints. Yeah, so it also describes we need to Dockerize it, make sense, build the image, prepare your Kubernetes cluster, and push it to the container registry. And it's also giving us the YAML code for that. All right, not too bad. So you can see you can use this as an interactive code assist. Let us actually try to build a small application. What about something that maybe uploads or API which we can put behind the large language model? So if you have a large language model application like our recipe, maybe we can have a thumbs up and a thumbs down. And what if we could store this maybe in BigQuery on a Google Cloud Storage bucket, this feedback, for later on to do something with it, maybe further fine tune or get understanding how good the model is. But let us try to generate a small app. Generate open API spec. Allow me to store user feedback. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Together with text prompt and text output in BigQuery. And a session ID. We could do this as a bullet point list, but I think that's fine. See what we're getting here. Closing this. All right, so we have our open API specification. Endpoint is called feedback, and we're getting a session ID, the text prompt, the text output, and the enum type of enum strings with the user feedback thumbs up, thumbs down. Yeah, we could also have this positive, negative, or 0 and 1, and we're getting some response codes. All right. Good, looks. And we're also getting code directly. All right. That's nice. I haven't asked for that, but why not? Well, let's see if this is working. So we have a BigQuery client. We're getting need a data set, need user feedback, and we're getting the inputs. So this looks like actually like some working code. I can open this in a file. Let's call this app.py. And we can, sorry, app.py. All right. I need to create a data set and a table ID. And let's assume I don't know how these things work. We could ask, how can I create the table and the data set? And this is how those AI agents are supposed to work, right? Some kind of, imagine you're working fully remote and you don't have anyone sitting on the side of you on another table. You can use those AI agents to help you. So we're getting Python code for that to create this with a schema. I know there's also G-Cloud command, so I'm asking the model, can you a BQ command? It's like G-Cloud, but for BigQuery. And you see we are getting the same data set and also the prompt. So let us use this. Put this into the terminal at the bottom. Give it a dataset ID. And we also our project ID. So the project ID is do it, and we call this Gemini code assist. Could also call this feedback, but this is the data set, so I think that's fine. And now we are taking the creating the table as well. It has the schema already inside. My project is let's give this a try. See if this is adapting the BQ command for us. Probably would be faster if I do it myself, but it's fine. Oh, it's providing the code for me, and it's not adapting the G-Cloud the BQ command. I haven't asked for it, but we are getting the code. All right, that's fine. We can also do it ourselves. So dataset called as feedback. This one was Gemini code assist, and here we have Sasha. All right. Not found dataset, Gemini code assist. Haven't we created it before? Sasha Blake won't do it, is not found. There was a typo. All right, I see. Need to check the code better. So database, the dataset is created. Let's create a table as well. Also successfully created. Nice, we got the code adaptions here, but we can also adapt this here, right? The dataset and feedback. All right, looks good. Submit feedback. We now have just this this code here. I want to pack this code into a Flask application. Because we want to provide this as an API. All right, so now getting our code. You see, the good thing, it now understood from the context again. If we scroll to the bottom, we get the context again. From the context, it understood what kind of code we have, and it immediately integrated our adaptions, which we did on the left side. So we have Sasha Playground, we had our data ID and the table ID, which wasn't previously in the chat, but it takes it from the left side, from the context. So we can take this. We can do, again, diff with an open file, and we see the changes. This is a really nice feature. So you don't need to check on the right side, see what changed on the left, just do a diff and you see the changes. So submit feedback stays the same, but we're getting an API endpoint, which is called feedback now. And it's importing the Flask stuff. This looks good. We accept this. And now I'm telling the model to write Python code to send a post request to that API endpoint locally. We also run our code. Let's run it. So it's not running because we don't have, it is running. App.py. All right, let's see in a second. So we're having something where we can, okay, what is the capital of France? Some session ID sample. Right, let's open this in a new file. Let's call this sample.py or sample request. I'm always typing twice, that's fine. Sample.py. All right, and I want to take it one step further. How can we deploy this to Cloud Run? So it tells us to create a requirements txt, a Docker file, and build the Docker image. Push it and then deploy it. This is correct if you want to make it clean, but I know there's also a faster way. Because there are those pre-built packages for gcloud. So the gcloud run deploy command will understand what kind of code you have, and it will do everything for you. So you usually don't need to do this. It will still tell me I need to do this manually. So let's try gcloud run deploy. We are setting the source code, the service name, Gemini Code Assist is fine. Region, let's do US Central 1. I really like this feature because I don't need to do anything. Unauthenticated access, yes, because you also want to give this a try, right? And you see, I haven't created any kind of Docker file here. No Docker file, no Docker build. It's all done by this one gcloud command. A little bit off context here, but I really like this feature. If you want to quickly push something to Cloud Run, just run gcloud, run deploy, and it works for a lot of different programming languages and frameworks as well. So it's now setting up the app for us. Let us also go back to the chat and see what kind of code suggestions we actually got here. All right, just the Docker file. I open up Cloud Run again. Give me a second. I think, yeah, when it's deployed, I think it's enough to showcase you the Gemini capabilities. But after that, we also go to the workstations and I show you the code transformations. And for that, we actually needed some code here. All right. And we have it. Deployment failed. So we need to check, probably the health check, the ports are wrong. Let me open this again. So probably the ports are wrong. but that's not too big of an issue. Let me check that here. Gemini Code Assist. No, it's not listed. So maybe it failed on another level. Interesting to see why. Logs are available. Oh, we can check the cloud build logs here. All right. Let's open this up. So I can see this here. So it failed to pack it for some reason. Provide a main.py. All right. So you see we need a main.py. It's probably a requirement of the gcloud run deploy. Let's deploy this. And I just wanted to show you how you can actually use the Gemini Code Assist to build code. But I want to, for the sake of the purpose, I want to deploy it here. All right, let's give this another try. And while this is deploying, we can go back to the workstation. So let's go here. So we have workstations. As I mentioned, workstations basically just a IDE environment inside of Google Cloud. So you don't have your IDE locally, you have it in cloud. This could be beneficial if you want to keep your code in a secured environment, or if you want to use a larger machine, which you maybe not have locally, but you can have a larger machine on the cloud. You can create those workstations here. There are different configurations you can set. You see, I have this basic configuration. You can create different configurations as well. Those workstation configurations. And you can choose what you actually need. You can give it a name, and you can set the machine settings and also the environment settings. So there are different IDEs available on the cloud, like WebStorm, PHP Storm, and Code OSS, which is basically the open source version of behind Visual Studio Code. This is what I have set up. So if you go back to our workstations, there is already one here. We start this now. Just takes usually a minute. And then I will show you the code transformation feature, which is, as I said, unfortunately only available within the workstations, but I think they will change this at some point. See if the deployment is running. Deployment is still running. Maybe while this is starting, we can also talk about the pricing a little bit. I think the pricing is comparable to other ones. The Google Cloud Gemini Code Assist costs $19 per month per user. If we are using the GitHub Copilot, the enterprise version, which is basically the same like the offering from Google here, we also need to pay $21. There's also the Tab 9, which is very famous, but it's way more expensive. I think it's around $40. Tab 9, at least was the last pricing I checked. So it has a comparable price to the other ones as well. How good they actually are, you need to test this yourself, right? I see there's a big benefit of using the Gemini Code Assist because there is much more knowledge about Google Cloud itself. So if you're a developer who's already working anyway on Google Cloud, maybe the Code Assist gives you some benefits over the other ones, but I haven't tested this in detail. So let's launch the workstation. You see, we're getting this Visual Studio Code environment, but just on the cloud. And let us create a new file. Text file, let's save it. Let's call this main.py. And yeah, now it's there. And let us take the code which we have here. Endpoint is, by the way, deployed. We can test this now. But let's take our Python code here, paste this here, and we are gonna select this now. And here we have Gemini Code Assist. And here you can see we have this transform code feature. As I said, it's only available here. It's not available inside of Visual Studio Code yet. And we can use this transform code. No, I don't want to install this. So let's go again here. So the prompt window is open at the top. You see this. Coloring is maybe a little bit off here, but you see we have the prompt window, and I can ask to do something with the code. Let me do this again. So we select the code. We also see this bubble. You get the same features like we had before, but just in addition, we get transform code. And then we can ask transform this code into Ruby code. It's now taking our code, and you see it's transforming the whole code block into a completely different programming language. This is not the only use case. Another use case would be, for example, if you have a large amount of code, you want to refactor it to make it more readable, or if you want to add more comments to it. So we could accept this or discard. If we discard, we're getting back to the old code. We could also tell add extensive comments to the code. And this is something we are not getting. So yeah, it was already commented. I think it's fine. But as I said, it's something you're not getting inside of Visual Studio Code yet. You can only get this here. I hope we also get this there, because I see this is a feature which is very unique. And according to Google, you can also do this on a larger scale. This is planned to be those transform actions later on to, at least what I have seen in the video, to do this on a code base. So you could upgrade dependencies in your whole code base with just one prompt. Instead of finding everything yourself, doing everything yourself, you can do those transformations at a very large scale yourself. Let us do, because it was looking really nice, let's do it again. Transform this code into Node.js this time. So you see it's making sure getting the right dependencies. This time we accept it. I'm not going to run it, but it looks quite okay for me. I really love this feature, and I hope we see this more. There's one final feature which I mentioned at the beginning of our live stream. There is this feature which is called, what was the name again? Not full code customizations, exactly. This is another feature where I haven't found anything to test yet. Maybe it's in private preview, but code customizations basically allow you to reference a GitHub repository, for example, and Gemini Code Assist will understand your programming style. How are you writing comments? How are you writing your code? And it will understand this from your repository. It will also use the repository for documentation and understanding your code. So you get much more specific answers to your specific code. And the code generated will be directly within your styling in your company, because it's using this from the GitHub repository. And I think this is a really great addition, because if you want to use this on your daily basis, and if I generate code and I anyway need to change the code to be in the same patterns and the same styling like we need to do in a company, then yeah, I could write it myself, right? But if the model understands how it should write the code, this is a really nice feature. There's also one last feature which I haven't seen yet here in our generated code, but if you let us remove the code here, or let's take the sample. Let's remove this, and let us use this generate code example. Generate code, generate application, a Python application that uploads images to Google Cloud Storage. That's not what I asked for. Let us close the context. That's what I meant. Sometimes it's taking the context. So let's save this. Let's create a new file. Let's call this app.py. Oh, sorry, app.py. So we're getting this code again. It's not in this example here, but sometimes you're getting code It's also not generating what I asked for. Interesting. Sometimes you're getting code which is taken from GitHub, for example. So you can see the reference where code is coming from, and it allows you to check the license. This is a big issue if you're using, for example, GitHub Copilot or any of the other code generation tools. You never know for sure where the code is actually coming from. With Gemini Code Assist, if there is code which is somehow taken from one of the public repositories, you get this as an inline, as a highlighted warning here, and you can check what kind of license this code is actually using. So this is one of those nice enterprise features I mentioned, to get this out of the box. But this is something which is important if you're using this as a company, right? You need to be sure the code you're using, you're allowed to use. You don't want to use code which is under a license which either you need to share your code or you're not allowed to use it at all. So I really like this feature. It's not here in this example, but yeah, you will see this. If you use the Gemini Code Assist from time to time, you get these warnings. This is code from a GitHub repository, for example. Check the license there. All right. Any questions before we wrap up the session? Yeah, to recap, you have you have the top right Gemini coding button, you have the chat, you have the inline IntelliJ code completion, and you have also the inline code adaptions with the light bulb here. Guru's asking if there are any cons. You see, sometimes I'm not getting what I'm asking for, but it's just a matter of clearing your context, making sure maybe you give it a fresh start, or you tell the model to adapt the code. But this is not necessarily con. It's true for all the AI programming assistants, right? Sometimes you're not getting what you're asking for. Probably the biggest con here, but it's also a pro, is the enterprise aspect, right? This is not meant for this single developer doing something at home. This is meant for companies. You need to have the Google account, you need to have a billing, and you also need to have a credit card at some point. So it's not like Tab 9 or GitHub Copilot where everyone can get it. You could also get it, right? But you need to create a Google Cloud project for that. And yeah, if you just want to use it for programming and you're not a Google Cloud user, then maybe this is a con for you. But for the rest, it's the same. I also see Google is investing a lot in those models. So I hope we see better integrations here. It's currently using Flash, Gemini Flash, as I understood, from the release notes. But I'm hoping we can at some point select maybe the model which we're using, or they're switching to the Pro model as well. And hoping we're getting much better results and even a larger context size window based on that. All right. I will write an article for that again. I will also push the code to GitHub and maybe add some more examples into the GitHub repo as well. But I think the most of the stuff is in the GitHub repo. One final thing to mention, there is support for 20 programming languages. So this is much more than other of the AI-assisted programming tooling out there supporting. So you have 20 programming languages, and you can use it in up to 40 natural languages. So you can have your prompt in French and getting Python. You can have your prompt in English and getting Python. But I could also prompt in German and get Node.js. So it's 20 programming languages combined with 40 actual languages. So it's not only limited to English. You can also do this in your language you're most comfortable with. And I think it's actually unique compared to the other code assistants, which are really focused only on or mostly on English. Google claims that all the natural languages are equal, so the same prompt in German should have the same good results as in English, for example. I think that's a really nice feature. All right, next live stream will be probably in 3 weeks because I have some summer vacation for 2 weeks. And after that, we might talk about the ranking API on the Google side. So if you haven't heard about the ranking API, it's time to have a look into it. If you're using vector search for documents and you're retrieving the documents, you can use the ranking API to further rank the documents. So we probably give this a try if I don't change my mind. But yeah, if hopefully see you in 3 weeks and then we can check the ranking API. All right, I wish you some wonderful weekend soon and see you in 3 weeks. Have a good day. Bye bye.